Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista and I am just getting back from the Amish. I went to go and pick up my milk and I still have a half gallon of milk in the fridge that has to get used up because it's from last week. So it is not at its most optimal freshness because it is raw milk. So I decided that today I am going to make lasagna. So my recipe that I am using for the lasagna is amazing. I'll see if I can find the recipe online and then I will link it below for you guys in the description. It is called $1 Million Lasagna and it tastes so good. It has a lot of cheese in it, which is probably why it tastes so good. So it does call for cottage cheese and I do not have cottage cheese, but I have that half gallon of milk that needs to get used. So what we are going to make right now is a raw milk ricotta cheese because I can sub out that cottage cheese for ricotta. I've done it in the past. I need to get that half gallon of milk and put it into this heavy bottom saucepan along with 1 teaspoon of salt. And I need to heat this milk up until it comes to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, I need to turn off the heat, but we'll go through the steps together. So let me grab that milk and get it put into this saucepan. Get it poured into here. And then I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt to this. Just actually turn the heat on here. So I'm gonna turn it to about 6 or 8, just until it gets hot. So it does indicate to stir it to avoid it from burning on the bottom. So I am just gonna kind of keep a close eye on this. I went to go and find lasagna noodles and I realized that I actually do not have any lasagna noodles. Well, I do, but I only have, I think, these ones. I think only have like 5 of them, which is not going to be enough for the lasagna. So I am probably going to end up having to make a little tiny batch of pasta also, which is fine because we have a lot of eggs that need to get used. So I am just kind of going through this drawer now because I was looking for the lasagna noodles and could not find any, but I did discover that I had an empty gallon jar in here. This is where I used to keep my store-bought wide egg noodles. And obviously I make them now, so I don't buy them. So I am just going to take our homemade noodles. These are the noodles that we made together that day. And I am going to try to get them into this jar without minimal breakage, which I don't know if it's going to be possible. I might use this gallon jar for something else. I might actually put my bow tie pasta in here because these are starting to break as I put them in here and I don't really want to break them too much. So we will not put them in there. There is this bag of this other pasta that I made a while ago. So I'm just going to add it to these. It's a pasta kind of like these. So I'll just add it to the top of this. I find that storing stuff in glass jars is good for me because I can see what I have, and it does help when it comes to doing my groceries to know what I need to put on my orders. Okay, so we've got that put away. I think I'm gonna put this bow tie pasta in here. I do like this bow tie pasta. It is this brand. I got it on Azure. I can't remember how much it was, but it is a yummy pasta. Not that much. Put that away. This milk is starting to heat up, so we're just going to give it a stir so that we don't get any burning on the bottom. We need to add 1/3 of lemon juice, so I'm going to get that out of the fridge right now and get that ready because we need to add that as soon as we take this off the heat. So it is coming to a boil. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to remove this off the burner. It burnt a little bit on the bottom. It was way too hot. And now I am going to stir in the lemon juice. And I'm just going to stir it in so that it can distribute throughout the pot. And what that's going to do, I can already see it, it's going to cause it to curdle. So I am going to leave this pot, it says for 5 to 10 minutes. So I am just going to let it sit here, that's off, and kind of do its thing. And then after 10 minutes, we are going to strain it over, like strain it through this. I'm going to put some cheesecloth or this flour sack, tea towel. I'm going to put it over top and just strain it through here. I need to also, I barely have any granola left. I need to get some granola made quickly so that I can have that for the week. And I want to do that while that is kind of doing its thing and curdling. So let's quickly get that granola made. Well, I realized I actually had to feed my starter. So it's been about 10 minutes now. We are just going to take our ricotta cheese because it says to pour the curds and whey over the lined strainer. So we've got it lined here. We're just gonna pour this into here. Oh yeah, it definitely burned. And so it says to allow to drain anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. I usually give it about the 30 minutes. So that's what it looks like. It's really hot, so it's kind of melting this strainer. Plus this is a really big bowl for this whey. I am just going to leave it over here for now, just while we get this granola made, so it's kind of out of the way. And I am gonna kind of cover it because I don't want any gnats to get in it, because believe it or not, they're so bad. Get this oven preheated to 350. I don't really have a set recipe for this. I kind of just put in what I'm feeling like having that week. I do start out with a base of about 5 cups of rolled oats. These are just a plain old-fashioned rolled oats. And then today I have some walnut pieces. So I am going to put, I don't know, maybe 2 cups of them in there. Now they are not all like completely broken up. Some of them are really big. So I am just going to like kind of squish them with my hands a bit to break them up. You can buy those like baker pieces of walnuts. They're like really small pieces. They work perfect in this granola. Next up, we're gonna add some cinnamon. I add about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon to this. One time I made it with pecans and pumpkin pie spice, and it was so amazing. So you can kind of, again, customize it to whatever you like. And then I add a little bit over a teaspoon of just this pink Himalayan salt. And I'm going to add maybe 3 tablespoons of these chai seeds. And that's it for all of the dry ingredients. So I'm just gonna give it a quick little stir just to get everything incorporated. Then you wanna add your oil. I am using a coconut oil. I just melted it. There is, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a cup in here. So we're just gonna stir that coconut oil in. I like to kind of get the coconut oil all incorporated before I add any of my other wet ingredients to it. Then we are just gonna add maple syrup. This is gonna be our sweetener. So we are gonna add a little bit over 1/3. Not quite 1/2, but more than 1/3. Oh, and then we're also gonna add some vanilla to that. So I like to add about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I just add it to my maple syrup because it helps incorporate it a little bit better. I find if I just pour the vanilla on here, it gets absorbed right away by the oats and it doesn't distribute correctly. So I just add it to the maple syrup. And then we're just gonna pour the maple syrup in. And I always do the maple syrup after the coconut oil because it helps get all of the maple syrup out. And then I'm just gonna incorporate it all. This is such a good base recipe. You can really kind of add anything you want to it. Just get this poured onto this cookie sheet. Just kind of get it spread out on here. And I like to just kind of have it on a thin layer. We're gonna get it put into the oven, and then we are gonna set it for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we are gonna come back and we are gonna give it kind of like a stir, and then we're gonna put it back in for another 10 minutes. Let's check and see what this is looking like. It's starting to definitely separate. Kind of see it here. I like my ricotta a little bit more drier, and you can see that there is some moisture still on the top. So I am going to let this sit for a little bit longer, maybe like 15 minutes more, but look at all the way on the bottom. Perfect. Our timer's just about ready to go off, so we are gonna take this out. We're just gonna give it a little like stir just to kind of make sure it all dries out and cooks evenly. So we just wanna stir it a bit. And I am using stoneware, so it does take a little bit longer to cook. Sometimes I even put my oven up to 375 if I am using stoneware, which I actually think I'm gonna do right now. Because this is still really, really wet. Okay, so we're gonna put that back in for another 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we are gonna come back and we are gonna add about half a cup to 3/4 cup of chopped or chipped coconut. And then we're gonna put it back in again for 5 minutes. So we will be back in 10 minutes. What I'm doing right now is I'm getting that pasta started because it needs to sit for about an hour. So I want to have this in the fridge ready so that the only thing I have to do is just roll it out. We're gonna add 2 cups of flour to the food processor. This is a quick way of making it. You can definitely make it without a food processor. This is just the easiest way to do it. Add about a teaspoon of salt, actually half a teaspoon of salt. Give it a quick pulse. Now we are going to add 3 large eggs to this. And depending on how moist the eggs make this, we may need to add a little bit of water. And we're just gonna give it a little bit of a pulse. Okay, it is not moist enough, so I am going to add a little tiny bit of water. We have actually used too much water. It's okay, we can definitely use more flour when we are straight, like flattening it, we'll be adding more flour. So now I just want to knead this for about 5 minutes until I get a really smooth dough. You don't want a sticky dough either, and it is kind of sticky, so I might add a little bit of flour on here. That is a good smooth ball. So now we are going to just wrap it, and then we are going to leave it to rest for about an hour. Timer's gone off, so now we need to add our coconut. It's definitely crisping up now. I always give it a little stir before I add the coconut to it. Okay, and this is just a 1/4 scoop, so I think I'm going to do 3/4 coconut. And now I'm just going to stir this coconut in, okay? And just flatten it again, just to make sure that you kind of got an even layer of it. The coconut's all incorporated now. So we're going to put it back into the oven for 5 more minutes. Just want to get that coconut toasted up a bit. So I am just going to leave it cool over here on this rack. When it is cool, I add raisins to it, and then I incorporate the little tiny bit that I have left in this jar, and I just stir it all together. You could add anything at that point. You could add chocolate chips, you could add other type of dry fruits. Sometimes if I have them, I'll add like a dried cranberry or dried bananas. It's, again, it is so endless what you can do with this. But it is my favorite thing, and I have it every single morning. I have it with yogurt and a frozen fruit. It is just a good way to start your day. Our ricotta is at the consistency that I like it to be at. So I am just gonna take it out of the strainer here. Just kind of get a little bit of that last liquid out. I am just gonna put it in a pint-sized Mason's jar. It should fit in this size jar. And then all I'm gonna do now is just leave this in the fridge to cool until we make our lasagna. But it is so simple to make your own ricotta cheese, especially if you have milk that's starting to kind of, it wasn't going sour, but it just wasn't at its like prime freshness. Now, this way you can use it, but because we added salt to this ricotta, it does kind of change the way that you can use the whey. I'm just gonna end up actually giving this to my chickens. They love whey, and it is really good protein for them. So I'm gonna run out and give this to them. They will be happy. Stephen has been begging me the last 4 nights to make him some chocolate chip cookies, and I thought since we already have the oven preheated at 375 for making that granola, I would finally make him some chocolate chip cookies. So this is kind of my go-to recipe. This is probably my kids' most favorite cookie recipe that I make. It is super easy to make. So what we're gonna do is I have to kind of keep checking because I have not made this recipe actually in a pretty long time. I don't know why. I used to make it like weekly, but haven't made it in a while. So we've got the oven preheated to 375. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to add half of a stick of unsalted or salted. I personally like salted butter. It says it should be softened. Mine is almost partially melted because I had to put it into the microwave for a minute. But yeah, you want it softened, like room temperature softened. And to this butter, we are going to add half a cup of white granulated sugar and half a cup of light brown sugar. And that light brown sugar, I lightly pack it. Okay, there's the brown sugar, and then half a cup of white sugar. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to beat this sugar and butter together until we have a nice creamy texture. Because we had that butter a little bit melted, it's not going to get as fluffy as I want it to get with the beating. So what we're going to do now is we are going to cream in 1 egg. We are going to cream in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we are going to cream in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And sorry, when I say cream in, I just mean we're gonna mix in. We're gonna get it really fluffy. Egg, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1.5 teaspoons vanilla. We're gonna get this all mixed together. Got it nice and fluffy now. And then to a separate bowl, we have 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of flour in here. I'm just using like an all-purpose flour. And then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of baking soda to this. And we're just gonna dump this bowl. Well, I'm gonna actually give it a little quick stir to get the baking soda incorporated, and we're gonna just pour it into there. And we're gonna give this a quick little mix. You do not want to over mix. Once you add flour, you want to literally just mix it. If you can see there, you just want to mix it until that flour is literally just incorporated. You want to have it light and airy. Okay, and so to here, now we are going to add, I'm gonna just kind of mix it up a bit. This is, you can kind of, again, at this point with this base, you can do whatever you kind of want to this. You can add a really cool thing that I like to do around Christmas time is I actually add chopped up candy canes to this, and it is delicious. But today what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do probably about a half a cup of chocolate chips, and I am for sure not measuring. I am just measuring with my heart. And then we are going to add probably like half a cup of peanut butter chips to this. So it's a chocolate peanut butter cookie. That looks good. And then we're just gonna stir these in. We're not gonna use the beater, we're just gonna use the spatula because we just wanna get them incorporated. All you wanna do, I have a cookie sheet here lined with one of these silicone mats, and you just wanna add like a drop size amount. So like I have a tablespoon here, so I'm just dropping the cookies onto here. You could definitely use a cookie scoop also, that might make it so that they're a little bit more even. This is gonna be a little bit more homemade looking. They do spread a little bit, so you don't wanna put them like really close together. That's good. We're gonna put them in the oven for 10 minutes. Usually you can smell them before then, and you don't want them to be like, you want them to be almost a little undercooked. I'll show you guys when we take them out what we kind of want them to look like. I can smell these cookies. They're done. They're actually a little bit more brown than I would like them. I am used to cooking these on the stoneware, but because we made that granola, it's still on that. So these are cooking a little bit longer than I would like because I really don't want all of that browning. So I think these ones I might put in for a little less of time. This is our last of the cookies. I leave them on the cookie sheet, but I just kind of separate them from it. And then once these cool for about 5 minutes, we're gonna move them onto a cooling rack. The pasta dough is now been resting for a couple hours, so it is definitely good to go. So I am just kind of adding some flour here. I have a video up kind of more in detail about how I make the pasta. This is just kind of a quick run through of it. Too thick still. I have them to their desired thickness, so I am just gonna cut kind of the shape that I want. This is the lasagna pan that we're using. It's a 3-quart, 13 by 9 pan. I want lasagna noodles to cover it. I'm thinking like right there. I think with the extra, I might just dry it flat like this, and then I have lasagna noodles in the future. So I think I'm just gonna cut this one in half. Because I'm using them right away, I'm just laying them on this tea towel for now while I get the other components of lasagna made. This is just a floured tea towel right here. We are actually good now to assemble the lasagna. It's only 2 o'clock, but I like to make the lasagna ahead of time, and that way I don't really have to rush to make it at dinner time. So what we're gonna do is we are going to first spray this pan with oil. I'm just gonna drizzle some on and just rub it with my hands. The recipe calls for ground beef, but I'm improvising. I made meatloaf for supper last night. So tonight I am going to use a sweet Italian sausage. I thought it would taste good in the lasagna. So I'm just gonna heat up my cast iron. I also need to get some mozzarella cheese grated. We have to mix together 2 cups of mozzarella cheese. I'm not really going to measure, I'm just going to say that a handful is a cup. We need to add the cottage cheese in here, but remember we made the ricotta cheese, so we're just going to use that. I need to get a spoon out. It calls for 16 ounces of cottage cheese, so I just used whatever this amount of ricotta is, I don't know. And then we need to add 4 ounces of softened cream cheese. Maybe that much. We need half a cup of Parmesan cheese. A little bit more. And then a 1/4 teaspoon red pepper flakes. That sausage is almost ready. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it. It calls for 2 cloves of garlic and then 1 egg. And we're just gonna get this all mixed together. We have to get 1 cup of pasta sauce. I'm just using some that we made, my home canned pasta sauce. We need to put 1 cup on the bottom of this casserole dish. The recipe calls for 1 jar, 25.5 ounces of tomato basil pasta sauce. The sausage is done. So the recipe says to pour the, where are we here? Stir the remaining pasta sauce, which is here, in with the meat. We are also going to add a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. And we are just gonna give this a stir. This pasta sauce is really runny. I hope that it's gonna be fine. It actually might work to my advantage because I did some research, and the research said that because we are using fresh noodles, we do not need to par-cook them before we make the lasagna. It just says make sure that your sauce has enough liquid to kind of cook the noodles, which actually that's gonna work perfect then because this is a really runny sauce. But we need a runny sauce because we're not pre-cooking our noodles. Win-win. This will be interesting. I've never made this before with Italian sausage, so I'm kind of excited. Okay, so it says to take 3 lasagna noodles and place them over the sauce. Spread half the cheese mixture over top of these noodles. We got it as spread out as we can. So now what we need to do is we need to take 1 cup of this beef sauce, or in our case, our sausage, and we're just gonna spread it over top of the cheese. I really think this recipe should call for more meat because I've made this recipe a lot and I find that it's lacking in meat. So it says repeat with 3 more noodles on top of this. Okay, and then we need to pour the remaining cheese over top of this. Okay, and then we're gonna add another cup of beef sauce over top of this. Okay, and then we are going to put more noodles over top of this. My noodles are starting to stick together, so I really need to get them on a towel on that table and drying. I'm probably gonna leave them dry for maybe 3 days. Just leave them on that table. Okay, and then we're gonna top it with our remaining meat sauce. 1 more cup of mozzarella, and we're just gonna spread that on top. Now we have to cover tightly with foil. And you know what? I just realized I did not preheat my oven. The oven needs to be preheated at 375. So that's fine. What I'll do while I'm waiting for it to preheat is I will get these noodles on that table in there. The oven is finally preheated, so we are gonna get this in for 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, we are gonna uncover it and bake it for another 15 minutes. The lasagna has 15 more minutes to cook before I have to take it out and take the foil off. So for supper tonight, we are going to have a salad, and I just wanna make an Italian, like kind of vinaigrette to go with the salad. So I'm just mixing it up. So I'm adding half a cup of avocado oil. And then I'm gonna add half a cup of this red wine vinegar. I'm just shaking it up so the mother gets in it. And then I'm going to add what would be about 3 cloves of garlic, a teaspoon. And I need about a tablespoon of honey. This is actually the vinaigrette that I use to make my pasta salad. I'm just using it for regular salad. And then we need about half a teaspoon of salt. You actually don't need to add very much salt because I am adding zesty Italian seasoning. I'm adding about a tablespoon of this. This is just a mix that I had made it from scratch. I can't remember exactly what's in it. So I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of this and then whisk it up. I have this cool little bottle. It's called the dressing jar. I most likely got it from Goodwill, but it has little salad dressing recipes on the side of it. Like this one it tells you like a fat-free vinaigrette, raspberry vinaigrette. It's really, really cool. I ended up adding a lot more of that seasoning mix to it. I think I added 2 more tablespoons. So in total, there's probably 3 tablespoons of that zesty Italian seasoning mix. Yeah, shake it up before you use it. I can actually really smell that lasagna. The timer went off, but I gave it maybe, I would say, probably just a couple more minutes in here. So what we have to do now is we have to leave it sit for 15 minutes, which is fine. It's only 3:30. Obviously, we're not going to eat at 3:30, but just if you make it to eat right away, you do have to let it sit for 15 minutes before you can cut into it, just to kind of let everything settle. But what I am going to do is I am actually going to I'm going to put the foil back on this and leave this sit until we're ready to eat it. And it depends on what time we eat tonight. I may have to end up reheating it. So I was going to make some garlic bread to go with the lasagna, and I've since decided against it because we already have really the noodles with it. So this bread, as you can tell, because it just broke apart when I cut it, it is a couple days old. Sourdough does not stay the freshest the older it gets. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to whip up a really quick batch of kind of like Italian croutons that we can have with our salad tonight. So I'm just cubing this bread, cutting it into some slices, and then just cubing it up to about that size. And I've already preheated my oven. I think I put it at 400 because we don't want to completely like burn these. I don't like croutons that break your teeth. I just want, you know, a little hit of bread. So I think 1 slice of bread should be fine. I did cut it pretty thick. Just adding the croutons to this bowl here. So I have my silicone lined baking sheet here. All I'm doing, so we have the cubed bread right here. I'm just gonna add some olive oil over top of it. Grab a spoon, just kind of toss it in the olive oil. And all I have here is this Italian seasoning that we actually made together when we were doing that spice organization. So that was probably like maybe 2 tablespoons, just like that. Just lightly coat it. And then I'm gonna add some salt. Probably will not add pepper to this. I'll just pour them on here. And we will evenly spread them out so that there's a lot of room so that they toast up quickly. Just like that. Okay, so we have it at 400, so we are gonna put it in the oven. I'm guessing we'll probably end up maybe leaving it in here for, let's try 15 minutes, and we'll kind of maybe come back and check after like 10 minutes. Let's check and see if these are done. I'm pretty sure they are. So nice and crispy. Okay, there's the lasagna. That's what it ended up looking like. I've already tried a little bit and it's delicious. And there's this salad. I haven't put the dressing on it yet. Super delicious. I am now in my comfy clothes, ready to go and enjoy that lasagna. I can't wait. It's lasagna, I think, is my favorite meal. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.